Hey, Arlo and Frank. I'm coming to you today from Rabat, Morocco. I'm in the Riyadh that we're staying in, and it's pretty cool. It's different than the places we've been staying. Rabat is not a real touristy town. We're staying near the beach. We're only here for one day, really. We got here yesterday afternoon. We leave tomorrow morning, but we're having fun. But I want to tell you something about me. Frank, you may know this a little bit, but maybe not all of it. And Arlo, you'll have no idea till you grow up a little bit. You're only 2 right now. But if you know anything about me, you know that I love bubbles. Now, Frank, you might be saying, I think I know what you're talking about, Grandpa. You're a diver. In fact, you and your Uncle Tom and me got certified together in Miami several years ago. And I've gone on dive trips around the Caribbean. I've been diving in Hawaii, and I do love diving. Diving does involve bubbles. But if that's your guess, you are wrong. So Frank, maybe then you'll go, well, wait a minute. I know something else about you. You love the show Trailer Park Boys, and your favorite character may be Bubbles, the guy with the real thick glasses. And I do love Trailer Park Boys, and I do love Bubbles. I think maybe J-Rock is my favorite. Maybe Bubbles. It changes depending on the episode. But once again, you would be wrong. I love things that create bubbles. Now, in 2005 and 2006, I developed throat cancer. And so I'm challenged in swallowing things, in eating and drinking. And I especially like things that are carbonated because they soothe my throat. But well before that, I loved bubbles. That just made me love bubbles more. In the 1980s, I started to brew my own beer, create my own bubbles. You put yeast and sugar together in a liquid, and there's a good possibility that you're going to create something that's got alcohol and bubbles. And if I love anything as much as I love bubbles, it's alcohol. So I started to make my own beer. I wound up making these 5-gallon carboys of beer, which would make a couple cases. I got really into it, but then I left the relationship and left the carboys there. I didn't have room for them. And now I live a life where I don't have room to start buying that stuff again. So I'm making kind of little 1-gallon jug beer, some cider, some experimental things that I've been working on, and that I'll keep working on when I get back to the U.S. in August. Then, I don't know when, but it was after I married your grandmother, I started to learn about fermented food. And usually it's a vegetable. Excuse me. You ferment a vegetable. So I started doing that. I started making pickles, and my pickles are not that good. I need to improve my pickle game. They wind up kind of mushy. And that's the big thing with fermenting food. You have to know how much to ferment it. Some things you ferment a year, and some things you ferment for 3 days. So it's really important to do reading, research, watch YouTube videos and things like that to get it right. And I've been doing that. When I get back, I'll be doing that a lot more. This place that we're in, Rabat, the lady at the cooking class the other day told me is the pickled vegetable capital of Morocco. She said there's a marketplace someplace here, and I can go see that now. In places like Marrakesh, they had these giant markets filled with spices and other markets filled with olives. It was just amazing. I put pictures of them online. So today I'm going to set out and try to find that place with all the pickled vegetables. And that's why I'm doing this one today. I was going to do this later on, a few talks down the road. But I said, hey, I'm going to bump it up because maybe I'll find this place and I can talk about it. Eventually, I started to make sourdough bread. That's the most challenging, but it's also very, very rewarding. Once again, you make bubbles. The difference with making regular bread and making sourdough bread is the yeast that's in the air. So you mix flour and water together, and then the air ferments it. Very similar to the way you ferment vegetables. Now, you don't want to just leave it open and have all kinds of stuff get in there because that'll ruin it. But you do want some of the outside air to get in, and then you with fermented vegetables, you lock the top. With sourdough bread, you cover the top. And it takes about 2 weeks, 3 weeks to make this starter. And then there's a series of steps that you go through. And trust me, later on, I will be doing a series about fermentation for you guys. So you'll have that long after I'm gone. And you'll be able to do what I do. Although you're lucky, your father does some of these same things. So he'll be able to help you with that. But I'll be able to give you my tricks. And Arlo and Frank, you'll be better than my son Tom at doing them. So after it bubbles for a couple weeks, and I love bubbles, then you start to make dough, and it has to sit overnight, and you bake it. Now, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just spend maybe 4 or 5 hours of mixing up dough, putting yeast in it and salt, setting it aside, and then throwing it in the oven? Because the flavor is better. It's complex. It's richer in flavor. The texture's better. Everything about it is better. Now, home-baked bread, baked with yeast, store-bought yeast, is delicious. I make that. I make pizza dough. I make rolls. I make pancakes. I make all kinds of things. And it's all delicious. But if you spend time developing the bubbles yourself, you'll make something that make people go like, wow, that tastes great. So why do I ferment foods? Fermented foods are very, very good for you. There's probiotics and prebiotics involved, and I don't know all the science of that. But they help with your gut biome, your digestive system. Your digestive system is filled with all these things. They're bacteria, they're everything, molds that are in your gut. And you want good ones to outnumber the bad ones. Fermented food provides that. Now, the fermentation process is kind of interrupted with sourdough bread because when you bake it, it bakes out all that health benefit for your gut biome. But it's delicious. It's also less expensive than buying things at the supermarket, especially fermented vegetables. You're going to pay a lot of money. They come in little jars. You can make giant jars. You can eat a lot of them. They taste better. And you get your family involved. You guys are both going to have kids of your own someday, and you can have them help you make it. I did a YouTube video one time with you, Frank, about, I think it was beer butt chicken. We had a good time doing that, and the chicken was delicious. We did beer butt chicken on the Weber grill in the backyard, if I am correct about that. And it turned out to be delicious. The reason that fermented food in general and fermented beverages like beer and wine are good tasting is because of the bubbles. And if you know anything about your grandpa, you know that I love bubbles. Peace out, guys.